21 Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Being said in such a way by wordless Summer, Lonely Snow did not give any rebuttals. He only lowered his head and left, chasing after Shi Feng. Waving slowly squinted his eyes. When he thought about Shi Feng equipped in a body of trash equipment, he could not understand what methods Shi Feng had used to cause Lonely Snow to follow him. Lonely Snow had even given up on the clearing Deathly Forest. Boss, let's ignore that foolish Lonely Snow. At worst, we'll start looking for people again. There are plenty of level 2 players now, battle to the end, said in disdain as he watched Lonely Snow. Waving slowly nodded his head. Lonely Snow's leaving did not cause any loss to their party. As for Shi Feng creating a party to dive into the Deathly Forest, not to mention clearing the dungeon, nobody would go in with a level 1 player. In front of the Deathly Forest's entrance, Shi Feng and Blackie continuously shouted to recruit people. Open party for Deathly Forest, no rigid requirements, okay as long as you're a veteran gamer too waiting for 4. Shi Feng shouted. When everyone heard of it, many level 2 players had run over. It was because Shi Feng's requirements were very low. Many small parties would choose people based on equipment quality, they needed a few pieces of common equipment to pass. However, who would have that many pieces of common equipment in the early periods of the game? Party me, party me. I'm already a level 2 cleric. Party me. I'm a level 2 shield warrior. I also have a piece of level 1 common plate armor armguard. In just a moment, Shi Feng had invited 4 people. These 4 people were quite happy originally. There were over 10 people currently present, but only they were chosen. However, after they saw the party leader, Shi Feng's level, they left the party in rage one after another. Fuck, it's just a noob coming to die in the Deathly Forest at level 1. If you want to enter the dungeon, enter it by yourself. I won't accompany you. No wonder there are no requirements for the party. Want us to give you a ride? Not a chance. The 4 people were extremely enraged, and the voices they made were practically roars, every player at the Deathly Forest could hear it. Hehe, even a level 1 player dares boast about entering the Deathly Forest. He just wants to tag along for experience and equipment. Lucky for me I didn't go over. There are all sorts of birds in a large forest. Who would be foolish enough to enter the dungeon with a level 1 noob? Isn't that just looking to be abused? One after another, the level 2 players laughed at Shi Feng for overestimating himself and for his foolishness. Get lost if you don't wish to party up. We're not begging you all to come. Blackie became enraged after listening to them. Shi Feng's techniques had long since convinced him, yet these people were calling Shi Feng a noob. Can a noob kill a level 2 rare elite when he was level 2? Can a noob kill a level 5 chieftain when he was level 0? These people were just a group of snobs and idiots. Crap, my knowledge has been widened. A level 1 noob party can be awesome. I really want to see how you two gather a full party. The cleric that just left the party said with a cold smile. At this moment, Lonely Snow ran over. When he saw Shi Feng, he hurriedly said, Brother expert, give me an invite. I want to enter the Deathly Forest together with you guys. I have 2 pieces of common plate armor equipment on main defenses 24. Alright. Shi Feng immediately sent an invitation. Blackie never imagined that Lonely Snow would actually leave his original party and come to them. He suddenly had a good impression of Lonely Snow. Blackie clapped Lonely Snow's shoulders, heartily laughing, you have good eyes. Don't worry, following Brother Feng definitely won't be a mistake. Nonsense, nonsense. Lonely Snow was still slightly worried within his heart. The grinding spot Shi Feng had simply pointed him to had allowed him to rise to level 2 quickly. However, Shi Feng himself hadn't even reached level 2, and he was still wearing very poor equipment. Lonely Snow just couldn't understand how it could be so. The spectating players by the side all became dumbfounded. There was actually someone who would enter the dungeon with a level 1 noob. This person had good equipment, at that. The brand new plate armor and boots on Lonely Snow must definitely be common equipment and not trash equipment. Although Lonely Snow had joined the party, not a single player had joined them after Shi Feng had recruited for over 10 minutes. With just 3 of them alone, it was impossible to enter and clear the dungeon. At this moment, waving slowly but surely brought a group of people. Hehe, Brother Expert still hasn't partied anybody? We've already invited another 3 strong members. All of them have at least 2 or 3 pieces of level 1 common equipment. The cleric, Endless Summer Night, said to Shi Feng in ridicule. Waving slowly only sent a glance towards Shi Feng, then moved his sight towards Lonely Snow, saying, you won't have a future if you follow him around. Before we enter the dungeon, you could still consider it over properly. I guarantee that you definitely won't suffer a loss. Afterward, Waving slowly shifted his gaze towards Blackie. Previously, all his attention had been on Shi Feng, having ignored Blackie. Now that he took a closer look, Blackie's clothing looked brand new. Blackie was even holding a blackwood staff. His equipment should be quite good, and he was also level 2, so his techniques should be good as well. You're not bad as well. Why don't you join our party? You should know that we are an elite party. It's not something average players could compare to. If we're together, leveling, grinding, and dungeon diving will be easy. Waving slowly looked at Blackie with a smile. Get lost. Trying to poach me over just based on your little party. Blackie scolded as he pointed his blackwood staff at Waving slowly. At the same time, he had selected to display the halo effect of the bronze equipment, saying, it's just 2 to 3 pieces of common equipment. I have 3 bronze equipment and 2 common equipment. Waving slowly and the others were shocked. They never thought Blackie was that powerful. He actually possessed 3 pieces of bronze equipment. During this period of time, a person having 2 to 3 pieces of common equipment was considered an expert. As for having a piece of bronze equipment, that person would definitely be an expert, every guild would fight over for that person. However, the Blackie before them actually had 3 pieces of bronze equipment. Waving slowly's party also became surprised. When they saw the halo effect of the bronze equipment, their eyes had nearly popped out of their sockets. No wonder Shi Feng behaved that boldly. Shi Feng had nothing to fear because he had grabbed an expert's favor. Meanwhile, Lonely Snow who stood beside Blackie was slack-jawed. He looked at Blackie in disbelief. Lonely Snow had originally thought of Shi Feng as a rarely seen expert. He had never imagined that Blackie was the true great expert. Fellow brother, if you party up with such a noob and enter the dungeon, it would also be a burden on you. Not to mention failing to clear the dungeon, you might even have to die once. How about you come with us? All pieces of mage equipment from the dungeon are free for you to choose from. Although Waving slowly was enraged for being given such a slap, if he could rope over Blackie, then the chances for clearing the dungeon would become a lot greater. I agree with your views. Joining a group of noobs such as yourselves really will be a burden to me, Blackie chuckled. You, Waving slowly's face turned beet red, furiously saying, then let's see who clears the deathly forest first. Finishing his piece, Waving slowly spun around and left. He did not believe that a party with a noob in it could clear the deathly forest. Humph, he's just a powerful damage dealer entering the dungeon. Does he really think he could clear it? Wordless Summer jealously murmured. Right. We are all veteran gamers. We are definitely stronger in dungeon diving than they are, the shield warrior curled his lips. After Waving slowly's party left, the number of people applying for Shi Feng's party had also suddenly increased. Such an effect was mainly caused by the equipment that Blackie wore. At this period, bronze equipment was definitely the proof of an expert. Even if there was a noob as the party leader, an expert with 3 pieces of bronze equipment could be considered as strong as 2 people. The advantage of having such an expert was definitely greater than an average party. However, Shi Feng was no longer inviting people at random this time, there was a definite requirement. Such an action had caused the 4 players who had left Shi Feng's party previously to regret immensely. How could they have acted on impulse? Now, Shi Feng wouldn't give them a chance even if they wished to join. Just as Shi Feng was fervently recruiting party members. At the southwest part of the Deathly Forest Dungeon's entrance, a great disturbance suddenly appeared. Many players had run over, one after another, every one of them having excited expressions. It can't be. Meeting in such a place, Blackie's 2 eyes stared straight ahead. Shi Feng was also shocked. They could even meet such an important figure in a small location like Red Leaf Town. It was just unimaginable. Could it be that Red Leaf Town was a place that had crouching tigers and hidden dragons, only, Shi Feng had never discovered it before? 22 Recruitment Storm. As more players started going there, Shi Feng's area turned leisurely. Brother Feng, I'm not seeing things, right? Or am I dreaming right now? Blackie rubbed his eyes as he asked with uncertainty. Shi Feng was speechless. With a bitter smile, he looked towards the 3-man party that caused this disturbance. The newcomer was not just anybody, she was Blackie's idol, goddess Gentle Snow. Gentle Snow's body was covered in a suit of gorgeous silver-colored plate armor, revealing her fine and curvaceous body. Adding to her angelic beauty and snow-cold temperament, even women's hearts would be moved by her, as well as a large group of men. Even Shi Feng couldn't help but admit that Gentle Snow was the most perfect woman he had seen before, be it regarding appearances, body, or temperament. There was not a single female celebrity who could match up to her. As for the 2 people on each side of Gentle Snow, Shi Feng was very familiar with them as well. He had seen them before on big news channels. They were all famous experts in God's domain. One of them was also an absolute beauty named Zhao Yuuru. If Gentle Snow could be said to possess a perfect body and appearance, then Zhao Yuuru possessed a devilishly enticing body and appearance. Every one of her movements was like a temptation that could influence a person's heart. Adding on the fiery red robe that she wore, her body radiated a wild-like charm. Such bewildering charms had caused many men wanting to go over and assault her. If you really did such a thing, however, then congratulations. You've just earned a one-way ticket directly to hell. This was because words such as big breasts, no brains, and as delicate as a flower were not applicable to Zhao Yuuru. In God's domain, she had another nickname of the Flame Witch. The reason why she held this title was that of the mountain of corpses she had piled up using these male players. There had once been a guild leader of a large guild that had tried assaulting Zhao Yuuru. As a result, the guild that had over 100,000 players became no more. Zhao Yuuru even hunted their guild leader. The incident only came to an end when that guild leader was killed back to level 0. From then on, the title of Flame Witch had been cast on Zhao Yuuru. Compared to the Snow Goddess and Flame Witch, the priestess by their side could only be considered normal. She was not overly beautiful, her techniques were not bad, and she was also within the top 100 rankings of Star Moon Kingdom's priest leaderboard. Two absolute beauties plus a great beauty, such a combination had created brilliant scenery in the deathly forest. Hundreds of players surrounded them, trying to become acquainted with the three women. Unfortunately, the three beauties did not even look at them. Sister Yuuru, these people are really scary. How about we return and level up? The timid Xiao Yuer whispered. Hehe, Yuer, don't be afraid. With gentle Snow here, even if you give these hateful, vulgar men 10 times the courage, they wouldn't dare come over here, Zhao Yuuru said with a smile, proudly sticking out her chest. Gentle Snow only nodded her head in reply. Regarding these salivating, vulgar men, she did not even place them in her eyes. Although the drops from elite monsters are not bad, the drop rate for skill books is higher at the Deathly Forest. If we don't grind for a few more skill books, we will level up very slowly in the future, Gentle Snow quietly said. Zhao Yuuru nodded her head in agreement. Although the three of them had killed quite many elite monsters, the number of skill books that dropped was very little. Until now, the three of them had yet to learn even 3 skills. It was really affecting their strength utilization and grinding efficiency. Effective party for Deathly Forest, looking for a healer and MT, 3 waiting for 3. After taking a few looks, Shi Feng continued shouting. Although Gentle Snow and Zhao Yuuru were indeed attractive, Shi Feng was no longer a child. He had seen plenty of beauties, especially after he became Shadow's captain. Many beauties would willingly throw themselves at Shi Feng. As for Gentle Snow and Zhao Yuuru, it was good enough to just look at them for pleasure. Such beauties were not something Shi Feng could have thoughts about. His main goal right now was to get down to business. However, Shi Feng's shouting did not yield any replies. Not a single player had even glanced at him. All of them were staring and salivating at Gentle Snow's group of 3. Even Blackie was no exception, his eyes had nearly popped out of their sockets from staring. Shi Feng sighed, helplessly shaking his head and continued shouting and recruiting people. Crap, what is this fool blabbering about? Do you really think anybody would commit suicide together with you in the dungeon? Quickly scram, you level 1 noob. Stop distracting me from looking at beauties. Quite a few players started to express their discontentment. 2 high-quality beauties had already shown up, yet instead of trying to get closer to them, Shi Feng was actually making noise here. What would you do if those beauties were scared off? That person is interesting. He can actually attract the hostility of so many people. Did he do something immoral before? Xiao Yuer revealed a crescent moon-like smile, giggling as she pointed at Shi Feng. Zhao Yuer aimed her eyes over as well. She felt nothing special from Shi Feng. He was even dressed in tattered clothing. Zhao Yuer felt that Shi Feng was just trying to seek attention from the crowd. She suddenly said in disdain, he is definitely doing so to grab our attention. Let's not bother with him and quickly party up 3 people to dive the dungeon. Regarding the number of men who had tried to attract their attention, there were just too many of them. Zhao Yuer had seen all kinds of methods these men had used before, and Shi Feng's method was not a rare sight at all, but instead outdated. Gentle Snow did not voice out any opinions, only taking a look at Shi Feng. She felt an odd feeling coming from Shi Feng, this was the spirit of a hidden sword. Gentle Snow was especially concerned about the fire poker hanging around Shi Feng's waist. Gentle Snow, what happened to you? Zhao Yuer curiously looked at Gentle Snow. She did not understand why Gentle Snow would keep staring at the extremely ordinary Shi Feng. It's nothing. Maybe it's just my imagination. We should hurry up and recruit some people to dive the dungeon. Gentle Snow shook her head, no longer looking at the fire poker at Shi Feng's waist. Originally, Shi Feng's party already had trouble recruiting for people. However, because of Zhao Yuer's single sentence, nobody else had paid attention to Shi Feng's party, even if his party had an expert present. Shi Feng expressed his helplessness when seeing the hundreds of players queuing up in front of Zhao Yuer. The 3 women's arrival had really bad timing. Brother Feng, why don't we go over there as well? Blackie shamelessly suggested. Scram! What do you take me for? Shi Feng rolled his eyes at Blackie. This fellow was just too shameless, forgetting friendship after finding love. Instead, Lonely Snow was the better one. He was a truly honest man. In the beginning, Lonely Snow had only taken a few glances but stopped after giving out a few praises. He had even helped Shi Feng in recruiting people by his side. Blackie did not dare to speak again after being scolded by Shi Feng. He could only silently look on in envy at those players in the queue. Over 10 minutes later, Shi Feng still had not recruited a single person. Similarly, Gentle Snow's party had also not recruited a single person. However, in Shi Feng's case, it was because nobody had come to join his party. Whereas for Gentle Snow's party, it was because the players that wanted to join did not match up to their specifications. One party was in heaven, while the other was on earth. Shi Feng had no more choices. He could not just continue dragging on in such a way, his time was precious. He could only make exceptions in recruiting. Efficient party for Deathly Forest, we have an expert leading the party, clear in one try, no limit to levels, looking for healers and damage dealers, 3 waiting for 3. However, Shi Feng's words had caused many players to send over looks of disdain. Even if you were trying to attract attention, you should have a lower line. Currently, there had already been tens of level 2 players who had died out of the dungeon. Every one of them had said the Deathly Forest was impossible to clear. On the other hand, Shi Feng said his party had no level limits. Then wasn't he trying to say that he only needed one person to clear the Deathly Forest? Was this possible? However, Shi Feng's lower line had still attracted some players' attention. Within a few moments, a group of level 1 players had come running over to join. 23 Tyrant Bear. Tens of level 1 players came running over. The area in front of Shi Feng's party had also started becoming lively. This person is really something. He is so desperate to enter the dungeon that he would even want level 1 noobs. Did he not know that there has already been a level 2 elite party that had returned after dying? Who cares about him? A noob is a noob after all. We won't be able to understand their thoughts. The long queue of level 2 players started laughing one after another at Shi Feng's actions. They all wanted to watch Shi Feng become a joke. Those guys are really interesting. Even I don't have much confidence in clearing the Deathly Forest, yet they actually want to clear it with a group of level 1 players. Zhao Yuru's lips curled up slightly, revealing an exuberant smile as she looked in Shi Feng's direction. Her voice carried a hint of ridicule and disdain. Gentle Snow also sent a glance towards Shi Feng from a distance. Shi Feng's temperament was both calm and confident. He did not become angry from being laughed at. Every one of his movements was very mature, not much different from the experts in God's domain she had seen before. However, she did not understand from where Shi Feng's confidence came. Deathly Forest was Red Leaf Town's first dungeon, and it was also everyone's first time being in touch with a dungeon in God's domain. Their difficulties were an unknown. Even the elite parties of guilds would carefully choose their members before entering the dungeon. On the other hand, Shi Feng did not care in the slightest, as if just gathering 6 players was good enough. Maybe I'm just overthinking things. He's just a level 1 player, so how could he clear the Deathly Forest? Gentle Snow caressed her elegant hair, her heart no longer thinking about Shi Feng's odd actions. She looked at her hand, at the player information displayed on it. Level 2 Summoner, Magic Attack 28, HP 150, Defense 8, Movement Speed 4. Fail. Next. Afterward, another Curse Mancer stepped forward. The person tensely sent his own attributes to the Snow Goddess, Gentle Snow. On the other side, Shi Feng as well was looking at player data. Although he did not have a lower line, he did have a bottom line. The equipment and levels of these level 1 players were much worse than the level 2 players that Gentle Snow's party were recruiting. However, they were still players. As long as they did not simply add their 8 free attribute points early on, the chance of clearing the Deathly Forest with a 6-man party was very high. As for those shield warriors and guardian knights who solely added strength or weapons job but did not add agility, all of them were rejected. Big brother, please party me. Although I am just a level 1 guardian knight, I have a piece of level 0 common equipment. Also, all 8 of my attribute points are still available. I can completely add them based on your requirements. A youth named Kola pleaded, his eyes filled with expectations. Shi Feng was slightly surprised. A guardian knight that did not add any attribute points could actually reach level 1. It was a masterpiece. It had to be known that guardian knights had very low attack, making the killing of monsters difficult. Normally, they would party up to kill monsters. To increase grinding efficiency, they would add a few points of strength. Otherwise, leveling up would be too slow. Guardian Knight Kola? Kola. Kola. When Shi Feng looked at Kola's face, and also his tall and muscular body, he felt that it was somewhat familiar. Suddenly, he entered into deep thought. His memory seemed to have such a person in it. That's right. It's Tyrant Bear. Shi Feng managed to remember it. Tyrant Bear's name was Kola. Tyrant Bear was the core MT of the first-rate guild, Brilliant Stars. During the early periods of God's domain, Tyrant Bear was constantly unsuccessful. He was even kicked out by third-rate guild, Heaven's Crown. After entering Brilliant Stars, Kola suddenly started to shine. He turned from being a normal party's MT into the core elite party's MT in the guild. He was ranked 15th on the Guardian Knight leaderboard of Star Moon Kingdom. Kola was known for both being able to attack and defend. Shi Feng had never thought that the Tyrant Bear would run up to him on his own. Kola was such a shy person, as well. It was totally different from the Tyrant Bear of 10 years later. Suddenly, Shi Feng had an idea. Currently, the Tyrant Bear had yet to join Heaven's Crown, not to mention Brilliant Stars. If Shi Feng could poach Kola over and turn Kola into his own MT, then wouldn't dungeon diving in the future be a lot easier? Big brother, I guarantee that I will absolutely listen to your commands when inside the dungeon. Please consider it over. Kola's tone carried hints of begging. Shi Feng had nearly let loose a laugh. The great Tyrant Bear would actually speak in such whispered tones just for a position in the dungeon. However, Shi Feng still held it in. The level 1 players that had come here all held hopes of getting lucky. The other parties that entered the Deathly Forest with level 2 players were already no good, not to mention level 1 players like them. If they could enter once into the Deathly Forest and fortunately obtain 1 or 2 pieces of equipment, then it would be of great help to their future development. At that time, entering into a large guild would become much easier. Alright, I can add you in. Shi Feng's face turned grave as he said, however, you should know that bringing a level 1 noob like you into the Deathly Forest isn't easy. I can't just carry you through the Deathly Forest, and then after you get equipment, you join some other elite parties. Wouldn't I just be striving for nothing? When Shi Feng finished his speech, quite a few level 1 players had suddenly sent over looks of disdain. Weren't you also a level 1 noob? However, Shi Feng did not care about what these people felt. He continued saying, I wish to form a stable party. Even if we need members, it would be with stability as the priority. If you wish to enter the dungeon, you need to be prepared for the long term. When I call you for dungeon diving, you must come. You cannot reject because you have some other matters. So, what will be your choice? When the other players heard Shi Feng saying so, they suddenly turned quiet. Shi Feng's intentions were very clear. If you wish to enter the party, then you won't be able to join other parties in the future, not to mention joining a guild. Everybody knew that entering a guild was the best method to increase your own strength quickly. Currently, they did not have the qualifications to join any of those guilds. So, they were here to try their luck, hoping to obtain 1 or 2 pieces of equipment. They might even be able to join those guilds afterward. So, how would they be able to give up their chances of entering a good guild just to enter a dungeon? Kola had also never imagined that Shi Feng would give such a demand. However, it was still reasonable. You couldn't just expect other people to bring you up, then leave when you become strong. However, Shi Feng lacked the persuasiveness when he said these words. At this moment, Blackie stood out and furiously said, just looking at you noobs, there is nobody that would want you down in the dungeon. And you still wish to join a guild in the future and enjoy their benefits? Are you thinking yourselves as experts, or are you taking us for idiots? Kola thought what Blackie, the expert, had said made sense. Even a level 2 expert with 3 pieces of bronze equipment was in this party, whereas Kola himself was just a novice noob. So, what right did he have to complain? Many thanks for Big Brother Expert's pointers. Little brother will definitely strive to fulfill his own role. Kola continuously thanked Blackie. Blackie felt somewhat uneasy from being thanked and referred to as an expert by Kola. Blackie was just a complete imposter of an expert. However, being called such by someone made Blackie want to become an expert in God's domain even more. Blackie, beautifully done. Shi Feng stretched out a thumbs up, quietly praising Blackie. Shi Feng never imagined Blackie would tame the Tyrant Bear just like that. The Tyrant Bear had also called Blackie a big brother with a face full of respect. Blackie suddenly became confused. He did not understand what he had done that was worth being praised by Shi Feng. However, he was still very happy. At least he had done something for Shi Feng, although he didn't know what he had done exactly. Over 10 minutes later, Shi Feng finally gathered 6 players. They could start dungeon diving now. 24 Hell's Roar. Although Shi Feng's party was gathered, the observing level 2 players had started laughing. They were not laughing because all the players Shi Feng had invited were level 1. Instead, the jobs that were in the party were just too exotic. They couldn't help but laugh out loud. This noob really is something, and even I am starting to admire him. They're simply a suicide party. I really pity that expert for actually bringing along such an exotic player. The expert had even agreed to let him be the party's leader. The queued up level 2 players started a debate, and there were quite a few players who were holding their stomachs while laughing loudly. He is just playing to the gallery. Zhao Yuri wrinkled her brows slightly. She turned her head away after taking a look at Shi Feng, her heart slightly discomforted. Before, she would be the focus of everyone wherever she went. Today, however, everyone's attention was on an inconspicuous noob like Shi Feng. Although everyone was jeering at him, he was still their focal point. Alright Yoru, we should hurry and gather enough people. If we waste any more time, we will be left behind by the frontline players. Although Gentle Snow felt that Shi Feng seemed to be an expert, regarding levels, methods of recruiting people and such, he was just too far from being referred to as an expert. As for the notion of inviting Shi Feng into their guild, it was no longer present now. Their Ouroboros only accepted experts. Got it. Zhao Yoru turned towards the swordsman in front of her. With a little vengeance, she directly said, "That is not bad, but too bad we don't want a swordsman." The swordsman suddenly became spiritless. How could he not see what Zhao Yoru meant? Subsequently, he turned his head and glared at the distant Shi Feng, his eyes filled with hatred. Meanwhile, Shi Feng, who knew nothing about what has happened, was currently activating the Deathly Forest. System, please select activation difficulty. System, normal, hard, hell. Shi Feng chose hell without hesitation. Suddenly, the transfer passage in front of the Deathly Forest changed. It changed from a silvery grey color to pitch black. At the same time, a flickering skull that had its mouth wide open could vaguely be seen. Meanwhile, the party members of Shi Feng's party all received a notification. System, you have chosen Hell mode of Deathly Forest. Death penalty increased by 100%. Suddenly, the faces of the members of the party turned deathly white. Death penalty increased by 100%, doesn't that mean if they died within the dungeon, they would lose 20% of their EXP? 1 or 2 hours of effort were required to make up for that EXP. Brother Feng, you chose the wrong one. Aren't we going down the normal dungeon? Blackie hurriedly walked over and whispered a reminder. Nothing's wrong. It's Hell mode. What would I be doing here if it isn't to dive Hell mode? Shi Feng snapped. The drop rate for forging designs was extremely low. If it was normal mode, then Werewolf Felt's drop rate was only 1%, hard mode had 5% and Hell mode had 30%. Although normal mode could be cleared without limit every day, who would have so much time to do so? Meanwhile, hard mode could only be cleared 5 times a day, and the probability of the forging design to drop was also not great. As for Hell mode, it could only be cleared once a day, but it was also the one that had the most hopes of dropping it. Feng. Brother Feng, what are you saying? Hell mode of the Deathly Forest? Just look at our party. It is problematic to even clear normal mode, not to mention Hell mode, Blackie panicked. Before, he had already seen several elite parties that had returned after dying. According to what these people had said, the monsters in the Deathly Forest were extremely strong. Their intelligence was extremely high as well. It was impossible to beat them without reaching level 4 or 5, so they had all left after giving up. If they dove into a Hell mode dungeon now, with noobs like them, that would truly be going down into hell. Relax. If I weren't certain, even I wouldn't do it. Shi Feng clapped Blackie's shoulders, saying confidently with a smile. Alright, let's go inside then. Shi Feng led the party by entering first, followed by Blackie. Lonely Snow had also entered with a dazed head, he was prepared to tread this path to the very end. As for the remaining 3, they hesitated for quite some time. We better go in. The expert has already gone inside, so what do we, level 1 noobs, still have to be reluctant for? Moreover, we're entering the Hell mode of the Deathly Forest. Even mentioning it would be a glory, Kola encouraged. The other 2 felt that it made sense and had also followed into the dungeon. Meanwhile, the area in front of Gentle Snow's party was completely silent. All of the level 2 players were stunned. They were not just shocked, but thunderstruck. A level 2 elite party couldn't even clear the normal mode, yet a party that mainly consisted of level 1 players had actually chosen the Hell mode of the Deathly Forest. Snow, did I see wrong? That's Hell mode, right? Zhao Yoru asked. Gentle Snow nodded her head, her beautiful eyes kept staring at the flickering skull. Her expression turned extremely serious. That fellow must have abandoned himself to despair, entering Hell mode after determining that he couldn't clear the normal mode. We'll see how they come out dead in a moment. Zhao Yoru laughed. We don't have that sort of time. Let's go, we've gathered enough people. Gentle Snow led the way towards the Deathly Forest dungeon. She selected normal mode for the difficulty of the dungeon. If there were no problems with normal mode, they would enter hard mode after. Within the dungeon of the Deathly Forest, there was a dark and gloomy forest. From time to time, there would be a chill wind blowing, causing a shiver down one's body. Aside from Shi Feng himself, every member of his party was tightly packed around the dungeon's entrance. They did not move even an inch for fear of attracting any monsters that would wipe their party. Brother Feng, why do I keep feeling a cold wind blowing by my back? Blackie asked in worry. Blackie, you need to bring out some temperament of an expert, only then will you have the possibility to become one. It is just Hell mode. Aside from the monsters here having a little bit intelligence, their battle methods being a little bit complicated, and their attack, defense, and HP are a little bit higher, there isn't much else. Oh right, there is also a little bit more monsters here. After some thought, Shi Feng felt that he had nothing more to add. Suddenly, every member of the party sent looks of disdain towards Shi Feng. When diving a dungeon, even a small difference in attack and HP could cause a team wipe. As for Shi Feng, he had just simply explained. Moreover, what did he mean by just a little more intelligence? They had experienced before the battles with monsters in God's domain. Regarding those monsters with slightly higher intelligence, even with the same attack and HP, their strength would still be increased by 1 or 2 folds. Alright, stop minding these little matters. I'll be explaining the strategy for this dungeon in a moment, so you guys better listen carefully. If you don't follow through, then your lives will become forfeit. Shi Feng waved his hands, ready to start explaining the strategy to conquer the dungeon. Suddenly, a strong wind blew from the dark and gloomy forest, causing the trees to sway madly. Ayo! 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 After the howling wind came a furious roar that resounded throughout the entire deathly forest. Countless birds were scared, flying off into the sky. Blackie and the others were stunned by such an imposing aura. They were just youths around the age of 20. They had never experienced any great hardships, not to mention being tempered through life or death situations. It was their first time facing such a lung-piercing roar. Compared to hearing the traditional roar of a tiger in the forest, this roar was much more shocking to the human heart. This thing is what we should pay attention to. Shi Feng calmly said at this moment. The largest difference between hell mode and hard mode was this roar. Although it did not have a specific name to it, the players in Shi Feng's previous life had dubbed it as Hell's Roar. 25 Night Ranger. Shi Feng's words confused the other members. Wasn't it just a roar? What was there to pay attention to? When Shi Feng looked at everyone's contemptuous expressions, he couldn't help but gravely say, listen well you all. Hell's Roar is not as simple as what you think it is. In a moment, follow my demands while advancing. If anyone makes a mistake, don't blame me for immediately kicking you out of the party. Being lectured by Shi Feng in such a way, the other members all became serious. Nobody wished to leave the party. In a moment, Kola and I will walk in front. Lonely Snow, you walk in the middle and protect the oracle. Blackie, you and the summoner will walk at the back. Remember, you must not break formation regardless of any activities. Without my command, nobody is allowed to be the first to attack, do you all understand? Shi Feng explained the basics of formations once to the party. The reason Shi Feng had allowed the Guardian Knight, Kola, to walk in front was that he let Kola add all of his free ability points into endurance. His HP now reached 310 points. With this much HP, Kola could resist a little longer, sharing some of Shi Feng's burden. The dungeons in God's domain were unlike the dungeons in other virtual reality games. The degree of freedom within the dungeon was high, and the dungeons, themselves, were very large. There were even quite a few player parties who had wandered around in the dungeon for hours without even meeting a single boss. Although the deathly forest was not as large, it was still possible to become lost within the dark and gloomy forest. If someone were to become lost, Shi Feng only wished to say hee hee. The scary part of the deathly forest was that players could become lost once they entered the forest. Eventually, the players would mysteriously die one after another. In Shi Feng's previous life, there were countless players who had entered the forest and died over and over again in such a way without even meeting the shadow of a monster. If they had good luck and met a monster, then the result was a party wipe. Only after many experts of guilds had done it, did everyone finally understand the dreadfulness of the deathly forest. They had acknowledged that it was a terrifying dungeon that was impossible to clear without reaching level 5. When Shadow Guild reached level 5, they had organized hundreds of players to scout out the paths in the deathly forest. They had paid over hundreds of lives to finally have a clear understanding of the deathly forest's map. The entire deathly forest had 36 paths. However, only 3 of them led to the first boss, Willy. These 3 paths were paved with the lives of many players. 2 of these 3 paths were extremely dangerous. Without sufficient strength, death would be the only result. There was only one path that had very few monsters. Under Shi Feng's lead, everyone walked into the forest. The moment they entered the forest, everyone discovered that there were too many pathways through the forest. They did not know which one was the right path. However, Shi Feng had chosen one without hesitation. Everyone else closely followed him while being cautious of their surroundings. After walking for about 5 minutes, they met their first monster. Suddenly, everybody started to become tense. Don't act on impulse. Listen to my commands. Shi Feng loudly shouted. In front of them was only a level 2 elite monster, a night rabbit. However, due to the dungeon's strengthening, its attack, defense, and HP were all greatly increased. Its HP was a whopping 700 points. Kola, you lure the monster over. Oracle, pay attention to healing. Everyone else, don't start the attack without my command, Shi Feng quickly gave out orders. The guardian knight, Kola gulped down a mouthful of saliva. He carefully walked towards the night rabbit's attack range. Everyone else was nervous to the extreme. Although this was only a level 2 elite, they were currently in the hell mode of a dungeon. However, everyone's nervousness was for naught. The moment the night rabbit with a person's height saw Kola, it immediately dashed over. Kola had very successfully lured the night rabbit over. Moreover, he did not panic when he lured it. He retreated while using his shield to block the night rabbit's attacks. However, even though every attack landed on the shield, the damage was still terrifying, just a single hit dealt 42 damage. By the time Kola returned to the front of the party, his HP had already dropped by a third. The Oracle, whose name was Drowsy Sloth, had good awareness. He had given out healing the moment Kola entered his casting range. However, every heal could only add 24 HP to Kola, it was completely not enough to stop Kola's HP from falling. Brother Feng, are we still not attacking? Blackie was slightly nervous. At this moment, Kola's remaining HP did not even reach 1/3 of its total. Bringing an oracle into a dungeon was just a complete mistake. Amongst the healer jobs, oracles had the weakest healing abilities. However, since Shi Feng had chosen so, Blackie could only acknowledge it. Now that their MT was close to death, it would be unacceptable if they still did not attack. Hold on. Shi Feng resolutely said. Time passed bit by bit. Kola continuously used his shield to block the claw attacks of the night rabbit, whereas his HP continuously decreased. Kola only had 20% HP remaining, yet Shi Feng had yet to give out the command to attack. Just when everyone thought that Shi Feng wanted to give up on Kola, a flying arrow pierced through the forest, shooting directly for the party's oracle, Drowsy Sloth. Lonely Snow had not reacted at all as Drowsy Sloth was struck directly on his chest. A very great damage of -123 points appeared. At this moment, Shi Feng shouted, Sloth, use life payment. Use the damage you received to heal Kola. Blackie, hold back the night rabbit to let Kola recover. Lonely, come with me. Everyone else attacks the night rabbit. Oracles were indeed the weakest regarding healing. However, oracles had high HP, they would not be easily one-shot. Also, oracles had two skills when they first start out. One was life prayer, while the other was life payment. Life payment could turn the damage received by the user into a heal to be used on other players. In the early periods of the game, healers did not possess many skills or equipment. In regards to such a situation, oracles had a greater advantage over other healers when entering the Deathly Forest. It was the reason why Shi Feng had given up on choosing a priest over an oracle. After finishing his piece, Shi Feng rushed into the forest. Do you think I will let you run away? Shi Feng coldly said as he looked at the dark shadow running through the forest. Wind blade. Shi Feng turned into a phantom, chasing directly forward. The reason why Shi Feng did not let anyone attack the night rabbit was to use Kola as bait. Shi Feng wanted to lure out the dark hand hiding behind the scenes. Although the night rabbit looked terrifying, an elite party could face up to 2 or 3 of them at once without any problems. However, in Shi Feng's previous life, the reason why even a level 5 elite party could be party wiped was that of the dark shadow in front of Shi Feng. This dark shadow used the night rabbit as bait, luring players into attacking it. The dark shadow, on the other hand, would ambush the healers from behind. As the night rabbit was occupying everyone else, there was no way to save the healer. In the end, everyone died. Inside the Deathly Forest, if players did not deal with this fellow, the result would be a party wipe. With the increased movement speed from Wind Blade, Shi Feng quickly caught up to the dark shadow. Shi Feng waved out 3 sword slashes, sealing the dark shadow's path of advance. The black shadow knew that it could not escape. It immediately turned around, unsheathing a pair of knives to block Shi Feng's attack. Dang! 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 With the abyssal blade, Shi Feng's strength was frighteningly high. His attacks caused the dark shadow to take 3 steps back, and each step it retreated would be followed by the damage that was over -10. In the end, the dark shadow revealed its figure under the moonlight. Night Ranger, Special Elite. Level 2. HP 1458/1500. Seeing the Night Ranger being repelled, Shi Feng immediately used Abyssal Bind without giving him a chance. 9 pitch-black chains appeared to bind the Night Ranger, preventing him from moving for 3 seconds, and his defense reduced by 100%. Thundering Flash. Chop. Damages of -81, -98, -119, -124 appeared. When the 2 skills landed, a frightening amount of damage appeared, taking away a quarter of the Night Ranger's HP. No matter how capable the Night Ranger was, it could not break free from the binding of the 9 chains. He could only silently take a beating for 3 whole seconds. Shi Feng was unrestrained as he sent out sword slash after sword slash, piercing through the vital point on the Night Ranger's chest. By the time the Night Ranger broke free from the bindings, his remaining HP did not exceed 700 points. Wretched human! The Night Ranger was enraged. He brandished his twin blades like a gale, engulfing Shi Feng. At this moment, Lonely Snow finally caught up. A charge from him had caused the Night Ranger to enter a fainted state, at the same time breaking the Night Ranger's gale-like blade. Shi Feng took the chance to slash at the Night Ranger's neck. Lonely Snow also brandished his large axe at the Night Ranger. By the time the Night Ranger had awoken, he only had a remnant of his HP left. The Night Ranger abruptly hacked his twin blades towards Lonely Snow, sending him flying backward and dealing 64 damage. The Night Ranger turned his head to stare at Shi Feng, once more brandishing his twin blades and slashing horizontally towards Shi Feng's neck. Dang! Shi Feng used parry with his sword. Without giving the Night Ranger any chances to retaliate, Shi Feng lifted up the Ranger and tossed him back. Then, Shi Feng followed up with a couple of sword strikes, finishing off the Night Ranger. Shi Feng conveniently picked up the 2 items that dropped, then immediately ran towards Kola's location to provide help. Laying by the side, Lonely Snow became dumbfounded after seeing Shi Feng's agile skills. His heart filled with shock, Lonely Snow had even forgotten to follow Shi Feng to support. There was such a way even to kill monsters?